Commercials suck, right, guys? Go to myfuneralhomestories.com and get the first 3 seasons of My Funeral Home Stories commercial free, plus a 45-minute epilogue for $8. All that money goes back to me, and you'll help make new episodes and new seasons of My Funeral Home Stories. Go to myfuneralhomestories.com and enjoy this episode.
The following account is real. Names have been changed to protect the living and the innocent. This journal contains language and content that may not be suitable for all listeners.
The last final of the school year can be stressful on its own, but when you add reckless partying and dead bodies to the mix, the stress tends to compound and you lose focus on what's important, like not finding yourself shot to death in a crummy rundown motel or how to do laundry without ruining an evening of psychedelic drug use. My name is Grant, and these are my funeral home stories. Chapter 9, Sharks vs. Jets vs. Abnormal Psychology. It's Wednesday of finals week, May, my junior year of music school. My dad gave me a break and found someone to cover my on-call shifts during finals, but I'm still working during the days when I don't have class. Thankfully, today is supposed to be a quiet study day, hanging out in the funeral home, babysitting the phones. Sitting alone in a funeral home waiting for the phone to ring isn't the most exciting thing ever, but it's perfect for distraction-free studying. Well, semi-distraction-free studying. I've heard the phone ring about 4 or 5 times. Not much happens on days like today. Sometimes you might have to write a receipt for someone making a payment for a funeral service, take a flower delivery, or occasionally pick up a gang and drug-related shooting victim hanging out of a second-story fire escape of a motel bleeding out all over the sidewalk. But I shouldn't expect anything like that to happen. I have the day to myself to study. That's exactly what I need. I'm 21 years old, and I'm literally losing my mind because I feel like my brain is floating in a sea of psych terms I don't know and won't be able to learn by tomorrow morning for my last final of the year. It's gonna be a nightmare. PSY 309, section 97342, Abnormal Psychology. I've been pretty checked out of that class and rarely in attendance all semester, and mostly because it's a Tuesday-Thursday class at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. classes in the middle of the week? What's the issue? 1, it sucks now for reasons I'll explain later, and 2, I have band practice on Monday and Wednesday nights from 5 to 9 p.m., followed by 2 or 3 hours of recreational unwinding time with my bandmates, followed by 2 or 3 more hours of advanced solo recreational unwinding. If you haven't figured it out yet, recreational unwinding is code for consuming a blinding amount of alcohol with a couple of pals after a long day arguing about who likes cooler bands, while advanced solo recreational unwinding is drinking alone, probably a lot more than you'd want your friends to know about, usually concluding with me finding myself in some dark rabbit hole on the internet. I got DSL internet at the beginning of the semester, and it's becoming a problem. So there's really no such thing as a quiet night after band practice. I was trying to be in bed Monday night by 10, so I told Eugene, Tom, and Dan, my bandmates, that I would have 1 drink and be on my way shortly after practice ended to get my rest for finals week. Smash cut to 2 a.m. in a hot and fresh parking lot, and Eugene and I are trying to talk our keyboardist Dan out of eating an entire bag of mushrooms because his junior year piano recital is the next day, and that's kind of a big deal if you're a music student. Dan only ate half the bag of mushrooms and gave me the other half. I didn't take them. I wadded up the bag and put it in my pocket. Dan's recital went fine, by the way, and I'm still looking for the right occasion to eat those mushrooms. Since band practice and partying was every Monday and Wednesday night, and abnormal psychology was Tuesday and Thursdays bright and early, I didn't make it to abnormal psychology very often. I could have 3 energy drinks some mornings and barely find enough energy to make it out to the kitchen for breakfast. Being in a band and being in college is fun sometimes, but not on Tuesday or Thursday mornings. Energy drinks are a godsend for anyone doing anything, and moonlighting is something else. They don't taste that bad, and now that they're sugar-free, I don't feel as bad drinking them every day. The only downside to energy drinks is the fact that I'm sure they're going to kill me. 1 drop more than 3 cans, and I'll be jittery and spun like nobody's business. Just imagine what that's doing to my body long term. My insides are dissolving away in the trunk of my body as we speak. I know it sounds excessive to drink any more than one energy drink, but when you party all night and have class or work in the morning, it's kind of the only legal game in town for staying up when you don't want to. The other night I had 3 death calls, one at midnight, one at 2 a.m., and one at 6 a.m. So I've been burning the candle at both ends with school, music, and the copious amounts of dead people I've been seeing lately. I feel like I might have to have an actual psych evaluation after my psych examination. You see what I did there? This psych exam is all that stands between me and summer vacation working at the funeral home. If I'm a music student, why did I take abnormal psychology, you might be asking yourself. Full disclosure, my intro to psychology course was taught by a doctoral student who was so hot. Blonde, late 30s, glasses, sweaters. You know the whole bad professor thing? Obviously, she's brilliant too. I mean, she's gonna be a doctor, so she has to be pretty sharp, right? I used to go to her office hours and pretend to be confused about concepts to make it seem like I really wanted to learn. Maybe she would find my stupidity attractive and seduce me in her office. But nothing cool like that ever happened, just learning. Anyway, her P111 course, Introduction to Psychology, was superb. I truly enjoyed that class. So much so that over the course of the semester, I convinced myself that my enthusiasm for going to class was because of my newfound love for psychology, and not because I got a boner every time I walked into class. One day during her office hours, she told me about a really interesting class she was teaching in the spring, abnormal psychology. She said I should sign up. She touched my arm as I was leaving her office and told me it would be really fun to have me in her class. This made me think to myself, I may actually have a chance here. So, following my scholastic curiosity and a classic Van Halen-style boner, I marched to the bursar's office to sign up. Here's the thing though. She went on sick leave a week into the spring semester because she got spinal meningitis or mono or something like that. That's the rumor around school, at least. I have my own theories, but I think she may have been doing a little more than touching arms to get students to take her class. Or she just got sick. Either way, the class sucks now because the guy who took over the course wears bolo ties and has a rat tail. Unironically. Like, he thinks he looks cool. Dumb hillbilly with his unkempt goatee, unpressed western button-up shirt tucked into Wrangler jeans with white sneakers. You're teaching a psychology class at a university, not having lunch at a Golden Corral dumpster. I get it. You're an academic and eccentric, but come on, you're already in a niche field at a community college in the middle of nowhere. Just do us all a favor and cut the mini mullet and get a necktie like a real professor. Naturally, once Professor Bolo took over abnormal psych, I tuned out, leaving me 26 class hours to play Snoot on my laptop. 26 is the total number of classes. I just made it sound like I went to all 26. I didn't. I definitely missed at least 8 to 12 of the classes. It's cool though. Attendance was optional. I'm going through the opening procedure at the funeral home, turning on lights, picking up the grounds, making coffee, vacuuming and dusting where need be. I move my book bag into our chapel and remove a 400-page hardcover textbook with the title Abnormal Psychology, 5th edition, a folder containing loose-leaf notes and handouts, and a stack of about 200 flashcards with terms for the final. I hadn't studied much yet because we've been so busy at the funeral home the last couple weeks, and I'm really good at procrastination. Now, even though we've been busy at the funeral home, it doesn't really mean anything interesting has happened. We haven't found a naked dead couple in a car asphyxiated post-intercourse after forgetting to turn the car off in a closed garage, or any interesting or disgusting suicides in a while. I've had a real dry spell with interesting calls lately. Alan and Brian had a guy crushed by an industrial-grade refrigerator 2 days ago. Meanwhile, I feel like I've been getting called out almost exclusively to nursing homes for the past 2 months. I kind of feel like the Grim Reaper of retirement communities. It's a little frustrating. I just want to see something interesting if I'm going to be on call and awake at all hours of the night. Is that too much to ask? Having said all that, I'm very happy to be completely isolated inside the funeral home without a single distraction today. This abnormal psychology final is going to be difficult, but entirely possible. It's so much memorization, and I just fucking hate the fact that I was duped into a boring class by a hot professor. I wonder how many of my male classmates are also cursing this final after the old bait and switch of Dr. Hottie for Professor Bolo. I don't have time to think about this right now. I'd love to, but I have 7 hours of uninterrupted peace and quiet ahead of me to actually learn what the words I've heard all semester actually mean. The entire funeral home is still, except for my rustling of papers and intermittent muttering to myself to solidify a concept. I flip through a small batch of flashcards. Cognitive restructuring, also called rational restructuring, in which maladaptive cognitions are replaced with more adaptive ones. Okay, that makes sense. So you got a memory you don't like and want to change it? Make up a new one and lie to yourself. Learned. Next up, flooding. Exposing a person to the maximum level of stimulus, and as nothing adverse occurs, the link between the stimulus and the fear or confusion will dissipate, leaving the person mostly unbothered. Okay, so take a 13-year-old kid who's terrified of everything, send him to a murder scene with loads of blood and genital mutilation to overstimulate the senses and the anxieties of the young man. After cleaning up the scene without being murdered himself or having his genitals mutilated, he will realize and learn that those situations are not dangerous or threatening, just fucking weird and hard to process. That's flooding, I think. Oh my god, psychology's so easy. Next, histrionic personality disorder. The phone rings. I have a cordless phone sitting next to me, so I didn't even have to leave my studies to answer the phone. That's called being prepared. I answer the phone call. It's my dad. He tells me that Ned is on his way to pick me up. We got a police call and everyone else is tied up on other errands, services, or in bombing. So lock up and meet Ned outside. He should be there in about 4 minutes. My dad, sounding rushed, hangs up the phone before I can ask him any of my rational follow-up questions. I'm so annoyed right now. I go to all this trouble to actually study, and here I am being interrupted. I'm gonna fail this final. It never fails. Why does everyone insist on distracting me? I'm pretty fired up and legitimately concerned for my academic future now. I neatly stack my flashcards on the floor and stand up. Before I leave the room, I notice a card not in the stack on the floor near where I was sitting. Of course, I missed one, and my OCD won't let me leave it unstacked and unsorted. Annoyed, I pick it up and sound out, "Persecutory delusion." I flip it over and read the back. Involves the individual believing that they are being conspired against, spied on, followed, poisoned, or drugged, or maliciously maligned or obstructed from completing their long-term goal. That seems appropriate. I hear the van honk out front. It's Ned. I hurry to lock up and meet him outside. When I get into the van with Ned, he says, "Hi Grant, how's school?" I turn and glare at him, letting him know I'm immediately annoyed by his burying of the lead. "Hi, Ned. School is fine. Where are we going?" Ned smiled at me, but it was like that old man smile that's difficult to be mad at. So I smiled back, genuinely. He tells me where we're headed and then proceeds to fill me in. Ned has a way with dispatch officers. It's amazing. They told him so much, half because Ned has a good relationship with dispatch and also because some of the facts may be pertinent to our safety. Apparently we're headed over to a rundown and well-known drug spot right downtown, the Congress Motel. It's one of those old 2-level motels and has been taken over by some very shady people. The Congress sounds like it would be nice, but I can assure you it's the furthest thing from congressional. There are always like 2 or 3 cars on blocks in the parking lot, and it seems to be a gathering place for the serious druggies and the prostitutes in our town. I feel like the cops gave up on this place years ago and just let the gangbangers, pimps, and druggies police themselves. It's a little grungy for my taste. It's not really the type of place I would ever go to buy drugs or otherwise. Not that I'm really in the market for the types of drugs they're selling. It's pretty scary. Not really a fun place to be. There is a Dairy King across the street from the Congress, though. It's a fun little royalty-themed ice cream spot where they flip your ice cream upside down before they give it to you. Now, I don't need all that. Just let me have my ice cream. So, aside from occasionally getting Dairy King, you won't really find me on that side of town. I would say it's probably because I'm not in a cool club like most everyone else that hangs out down here. I say club, but I'm coyly referring to gangs. Gangs are a big problem in our city. At one point I was told that we had one of the highest gang-related murder rates in the country. But the person who said that wasn't really an authority. In fact, I think I may have heard that from Ned. Anyway, there are 2 gangs stirring up a big issue over drug turf apparently, and things are getting pretty heated. Obviously they are. We're on our way to pick up a gunshot victim. To keep things from getting messy for my sake, we'll call the 2 gangs the Sharks and the Jets. They sound like a friendly, dancing bunch of fellows in slippery shoes and leather jackets, but they are actually savage, drug-dealing murderers. I'm not entirely sure how gang culture works, but apparently the Sharks like some stuff and a certain color, while the Jets think the stuff that the Sharks like sucks and wear a different color. And there's lots of heroin and guns and other crazy shit. Probably some mushrooms too. I wonder where Dan got that bag of mushrooms that are still sitting in my shorts pocket in my hamper. I need to remember to take those out before I do laundry. Anyway, gangs are so much more complicated and scary than I'm even aware of. To say that I even have a cursory understanding of gang culture in our city would be a gross overstatement. So I'll keep it simple. The Sharks and the Jets don't like each other because of, well, drugs. Got it? Ned tells me that we're picking up Teddy Smith, a 24-year-old black male who was gunned down in the upstairs of the Congress by a rival gang member, a Shark, over some drug or gang-related dispute. Our friend Teddy is halfway in the hallway and halfway in the fire escape, and apparently his body is leaking blood onto the pavement below, so they had to rope off the whole parking lot. I guess there's also a crowd gathering of family and friends. Fingers are getting pointed and tempers are high. It's gonna be a whole scene. I sigh audibly, knowing just how long these types of calls can take and just how little studying I'm getting done. I should have brought my flashcards. I guess I'll go over some of it in my head right now just to keep it fresh. Well, there's flooding, which is... what is flooding? Ned breaks my focus with a piece of information that makes my blood pressure drop. The dispatcher told Ned that they caught the shooter, but are very worried about a retaliation attack, and they're not sure when. Police will obviously be on the scene, but we'll have a police escort to the hospital to drop off the body for its autopsy. Which is stupid. It was a shooting. I think we know what killed him. Why do we need a police escort? I asked Ned. My heart's thumping faster now because I think I already know the answer. Ned looks at me and says, they're worried some of the gang members might follow us to the hospital. My eyes open wide. Why would they follow us to the hospital, Ned? He shrugs and says, who knows? Good old Ned, too close to retirement to give a fuck. Normally I'd be annoyed by his apathy, but I'm too worried about failing my psych final to get too upset at Ned for being Ned. If I were to get upset at Ned because I was convinced I was going to fail my final, I would be displacing my anger onto Ned unjustly. Displacement is one of my psych terms. I already know that one. I feel myself starting to get excited. If I'm not going to be studying, at least I'm doing something interesting and not just picking up some old lady with purple hair out of an assisted living community. Ned and I pull up to the Congress and are greeted by 6 police cars around the perimeter of the motel's property, and there are 3 distinct crowds formed around the police tape. Concerned neighbors, confused druggies, and a whole lot of people crying and wearing red. Those must be the Jets. Ned follows a police officer's instructions, waving him to park under the portico at the front office. Ned parks and we grab the stretcher out of the back. The officer that waved us in is now breaking down the scene. He recaps some of what we already knew. A 24-year-old black man named Teddy Smith, shot multiple times in some sort of gang or drug dispute. The officer is glad we're here because it's hard to keep the body concealed from onlookers because of its position. What kind of position is this guy in? Apparently, when he was shot in the hallway, he fell into the emergency exit door and fell onto the grated metal walkway on the fire escape stairwell. I guess he's basically outside for everyone to see, bleeding out everywhere. We didn't see him pulling up, but I guess we did come from the front. Ned and I are inside and taking the stretcher up one very steep yet wide stairwell to get to the second floor. This place is so run down and disgusting. I feel like everything in here used to be nice and semi-elegant, but through years of neglect and shit clientele, this place looks like it's one small foundation crack away from being condemned and laid to rest. I pass a red fire extinguisher box on my right with the glass broken and no fire extinguisher inside. Somebody must have needed that, I guess. I can't tell if the carpets are faded or are just super dirty. We see a bright door-shaped light from the end of the hallway. That's Teddy, an officer says as we continue walking the stretcher forward. We get to the end of the hallway and see what we're dealing with. It's almost exactly as the officer described. A man's body is half in the building, half out. Teddy has 2 bullet holes in his face and at least 2 in his body somewhere. The entrance wounds on Teddy's face are small and just look like little singed holes, nothing life-threatening. I can't see the back of his head because of how he's laying, but I can see brain matter and chunks of jello-y flesh around and underneath him. I lean over with one foot outside through the door jamb to take a closer look at his head, and that's when I notice the crowd. There are so many people back here, and everyone can see the fire escape, the body, and the pool of blood forming from the blood dripping down from the man's head above. Oh, wow. It was a perfect circular puddle. I feel like the puddle should be way bigger though. This guy lost a lot of blood. Teddy's wearing a really cool, heavy-duty red and white long-sleeve flannel shirt and some considerably hip Tommy Hilfiger jeans. They're a little too loose for my taste, but I like the red, white, and blue Hilfiger flag patch on his front pocket. I can hear screams and shouts of agony and hysteria when the crowd sees Ned and I start to crouch around the body. Alright guys, let's make this quick. We're not here to put on a show for these people. Let's get this body out of here, the officer tells us sternly. Ned and I hurry to put on our gloves and prepare the disaster pouch next to the man's body. I do feel a little relief knowing that this will be over soon, and I'll be back trying to sort out the difference between borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder. I really need to study. The officer seems frustrated by the circus this shooting created. I get it. He has like 20 uniformed officers here doing basic crowd management, not fighting crime. He probably feels like he was sent down here to babysit. Ned tells me since I'm closer to the head, I should grab that end. He'll grab the feet. Ned tells me we'll lift Teddy up a couple of inches and move him directly into a disaster pouch to mitigate any mess and keep from ruining our clothes. It's customary when making removal to treat the body of the deceased as if you were trying to transfer the body of a sleeping person without waking them. Well, that's always been my approach at least. I straddled Teddy's blood-oozing body and grabbed the front of his flannel shirt firmly with my right hand and lift slightly while simultaneously placing my left hand on the back of Teddy's head. The squish sound is disgusting. I can feel ripped and loose hanging flesh and a room-temperature liquid covering my hand. The liquid is blood, obviously. This is the most disgusting thing I've felt in a while. Immediately I'm bombarded with questions. Did Teddy know the person who shot him? Did he get robbed? Does he have a family? I think back to my flashcards. Flooding. I think this is flooding. I'm certainly uncomfortable by the overwhelming stimuli here. I give Ned the look. The, hey, let's move a little quicker, Ned, because this is fucking gross look. To Ned's credit, he did hustle. He got that pouch under Teddy before I even had to say anything. We zipped up the bag and loaded the body onto the stretcher. It's weird to see the aftermath of a shooting like this. The crowd settled down outside, so it's quiet, and we're left looking at a giant red stain on the Congress's already disgusting carpet. Do you suppose they'll even try and cover that up? Probably not. Meth heads and heroin addicts probably don't give a shit about the quality of carpet in their drug dens. As we leave through the front entrance, we realize the crowd of mourning friends and family have gathered around our van. The officer turns to us and whispers that he's going to be our police escort to the hospital. I don't think you guys are in any danger. It's just a precaution. When the crowd sees us pushing the stretcher with their friend's body on it, they erupt in the saddest cacophony of moans and cries. Not a lot makes me sad, but this did. His family and friends lost someone very important today for something so trivial. Either drugs or some stupid fucking club. After we loaded Teddy's body into the van, an older woman waves to me standing by the police tape. I walk towards her. She looks destroyed. Through whimpers, she tells me that Teddy was her grandson. She was staying strong and fighting off sobbing. Before she said anything else, I put my hand on her shoulder and said, "We're going to take great care of your grandson." She hugged me. A little longer than I was comfortable with, but given the circumstance, I understood. We got into the van and left with our police escort. Just as the officer suspected, we didn't get followed or face any retaliation on the way to the hospital. And as mad as I was that I wasn't studying, I couldn't even think about psychology. All I could think about was Teddy's grandma and how broken she was when I spoke to her. It made me think about what my grandma's face would be like if you told her I was shot to death in a drug motel. It's Thursday morning. I've been sitting in my car on the north side of campus nervously cramming for my exam for about an hour. There are so many terms. My flashcards are thrown all around my cloth interior Pontiac Grand Am. As soon as I think I have a term down, I drop it out at the deck. I don't have time to fuck around and make myself feel better by re-quizzing myself on terms I'm already rock solid on. So as soon as I know it, it's on the floor. I feel my confidence grow with every card that hits the carpet. I may actually fucking nail this thing. I studied for a couple hours when I got back from the Congress, but got distracted by band practice and a couple of cocktails. It wasn't anything like Monday night. No one had to talk anyone out of doing mushrooms. Which reminds me, where did I put those mushrooms Dan gave me? There's a small stack of cards left in my hand of about 20 or 30 terms that I can't quite commit to memory. It's 8:45. The final's at 9. I can do this. I'm realizing that in the hustle and bustle of studying, I've already had 3.5 energy drinks and hadn't had anything to eat this morning. I hold my hand in front of my face. I'm shaking. Immediately upon realizing this, my brain hits the panic button. My head starts to spin, my face flushes, and my body is hit with a huge dose of lethargy. All the symptoms of a classic caffeine overdose. I've got experience with this, but the lack of sleep and 2 or 3 drinks I had last night after practice are making it a little more difficult to navigate this morning. I'm so nauseous, I can't even look at the last half of my 4th energy drink. The metallic aftertaste takes over my entire mouth. I grab the can, open my car door, and pour the remainder of the can out on the parking lot. I lean out, glancing down at the puddle it's creating next to and below my car. It reminds me of Teddy's blood all pooled up on the sidewalk. Obviously, it's a different color and consistency though. But I'm seeing how much of a puddle this half a can of energy drink made, and I'm surprised. I feel like Teddy lost way more blood than I poured out of this can, yet the energy drink puddle was almost the same size as the puddle of blood on the sidewalk. Maybe it's because I was on the 2nd floor looking down, so the pool of blood seems smaller? Or maybe because blood is thicker, it sets up differently, so the surface area that I see of the puddle looks flat, but really it's blood stacked on top of set blood, piling up as it comes down. That has to be it. I shut the door and wipe small drops of sweat off my forehead. I think I'm over the peak of my caffeine fit. I'm feeling less shitty, but still awful. My face isn't flushed, but I'm still pretty hot. I got a few minutes. I'll turn on some music, close my eyes, and calm myself down before the final. Calm down, Grant. This is your last exam before summer. You got this. You know most of the information you need. You'll be fine. I turn the air conditioner on high, glancing at the clock in the process. It's 8:56. Oh shit, my exam starts in 4 minutes. I turn my car off and throw the rest of the flashcards on the floor of the passenger side with the others. No sense bringing these with me. If I don't know it now, I'm never gonna know it. I kept looking at my watch as I was half sprinting across campus. 8:58. I open the door to the psychology building and I run the entire length of the downstairs hallway to get to my classroom on the left. I find a seat towards the back, throw my things under the desk, and take out a pencil. Number 2, of course. Has anyone ever seen or used a number 1 or number 3 pencil? My hillbilly professor smiles at me and delivers some offhanded jab as he hands me my unnaturally thick exam. Something like, "Oh, so happy you could join us today." If I wasn't feeling so queasy from my overcaffeination, I would have made a snide and cutting comment back to him, but I can't muster up much more than apathy for this guy in his shitty class. So I just smile and say, "Cool bolo." His smile turns to a frown. It was awesome. The left side of the front page of the exam is a list of definitions, and on the right side of the page there are about 30 terms. I look over the list quickly to see if there are any familiar terms to help ease my flustered and panicked brain. The word flooding stands out. I remember the feeling of holding Teddy's destroyed skull in my hands and hugging his grandmother afterwards. That's flooding. Thinking about the test again, I exhaled deeply, realizing that I probably know more of these terms than I actually think I do. I checked to make sure my pencil was nice and sharp and dove right in. It couldn't have taken more than 15 or 20 minutes. My stress and anxiety over this exam the last day and a half have been completely unwarranted. I know this shit. I didn't even have to go to class, and I'm gonna ace this final. Midway through the test, Teddy's cool Tommy Hilfiger jeans pop into my brain. I wonder if I could pull those off. Probably not. I finished the exam and said my final goodbye to Professor Bolo. Good riddance. Driving home relieved and feeling a little less caffeinated, I think about my new freedom. It's summer now. No more classes, no more time wasted studying terms and concepts of psychology that bear no weight on my everyday life. Just music and dead bodies this summer. I can't wait. A classmate told me that there's a new edition of our abnormal psychology textbook, so the bookstore isn't buying ours back. This is frustrating because it was a $200 book. Oh my god, I just remembered, I have mushrooms. Who cares about this fucking book? But I can't eat those tonight. I'm really tired already, and I probably should just go to bed early. I've had a crazy week, and I need to be up at 8 a.m. for work tomorrow. Plus, I have so much housework to do tonight. I've neglected my household chores the last week, so I really need to declutter my living space in order to help declutter my brain. As soon as I get home, I get to work. I feed my dog Carter, start a load of dishes in the dishwasher, check the mail, dump my clothes in my hamper into the washer, and make myself a drink. We're notified via email by our teacher's assistant that our final exam and semester grades were updated on the website. I log in and check my grade. Remember when I said I thought I nailed it? Well, it turns out I didn't. D+, actually, which leaves me a C+ final grade for the class. I'll take it. There isn't a lot I can do about it now. It brings my GPA down a little, but at least it's over. Oh my god, I have mushrooms. I remember the half bag of mushrooms that Dave gave me at Hot and Fresh, which I put in my shorts pocket to use later at my own discretion. Well, I'm using my discretion now. I've earned it. This week was rough, and I should celebrate the fact that I didn't fail a class. I run to my bedroom to grab the mushrooms. I'm so excited. I open my closet and remember that I put my shorts in the hamper, which I just put in the washer. Fuck. The one thing I was looking forward to tonight. I'm so stupid. I think there's a life lesson to be learned here, but I'm not sure what it is. Either never let a pretty woman talk you into something because it sounds fun, because it won't be. Or maybe I should just be more careful when I'm doing my laundry. My name is Grant, and these are my funeral home stories. Thank you for listening to My Funeral Home Stories. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please rate and review wherever you listen. It actually helps out a lot more than you think. Be sure to follow me on social media at Pomo and Kitsch, and also check out my album, Pomo and Kitsch, Fetch. Also available on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, or wherever you listen to music. Thanks for listening.